Welcome to Light Over Heat with Professor David Imani. This week, let's talk about when violence is the answer. Last week, I talked about how violence can be virtuous and my life-altering realization that I might need to use it to protect myself or my children. A commentator on that video, Matt Ellisor, distinguished between violence as being virtuous and violence as being desirable. Now, I don't find violence to be subjectively pleasing or worth pursuing in and of itself. That is not desirable. It's a means to the end of protecting life, family, or friends, and that's what makes it virtuous. And that reminded me of Tim Larkin's book, When Violence is the Answer. Now, Larkin writes, "Thankfully for most of us, violence is an anomaly, a black swan event whose likelihood is as predictable as its consequences, which is to say, not very. Most people will go their entire lives without experiencing serious violence." It's that passage that I could very much relate to myself, as I said last week. But Larkin begins his book with this statement, which is very important. Violence is rarely the answer, but when it is, it's the only answer. And this is really a version of Pascal's wager. It's better to have the capacity for violence and not need it than to need the capacity for violence and not have it. Now, my earlier argument that guns are tools purpose designed for lethal violence could give the impression that I think a wise personal protection plan centers on guns. And some people are like this. If you only have a hammer, you might see every problem as being a nail. And you might end up shooting someone in a movie theater because they threw popcorn on you. For his part, Larkin devotes part of his book to the times when violence is not the answer, which is to say, most of the time. He advises, bracket your ego, swallow your pride, avoid confrontation, or if it begins, just walk away. There's truth in the cliches. The first rule of gunfighting is don't be there, and you can't lose a fight you're not in. As Michael Bain puts it, awareness and avoidance are your best defense. So, far from shoot first and ask questions later, intelligent people in the community treat the gun as a last resort. And here I think of a course I took called Force Readiness at the Complete Combatant in Georgia a couple of years ago. According to the instructor of that course, Brian Hill, the more robust your skill set, the more choices you have. And this is well represented in the company's mascot, the Combat Ant. As you can see, the Combat Ant does have a gun, of course, but also a knife, a flashlight, a phone, and a martial arts belt. And he should probably also have on a pair of running shoes because the Nike defense is something that was discussed more than once in that Force Readiness course. Some here will immediately think of John Steinbeck's observation that the final weapon is the brain, all else is supplementary, or as the Complete Combatant's motto puts it, you are the weapon.